Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls is one of the best known and timeless children's books. Its legacy is so strong that a statue of the main character and his two dogs can be seen at the Idaho Falls Public Library. Its sales were slow at first, but by 1974, when it got adapted to film for the first time, over 90,000 copies were sold. The film version definitely helped the book's sales, and in the modern day, it is required reading in most American schools. So the film definitely served its purpose then. But does it still have relevance today? Well, when I read the book in elementary school, the teachers showed us the film after, so maybe for experiencing the story for the first time. But what about after that, when you're done with elementary school? If you live in America, you probably already know how the story goes. But if not, here's a little background. It's about a young boy named Billy Coleman who lives out in the Ozarks. He was happy during his childhood years, except for one problem. He really wants to own two red-bone hunting dogs. His family was poor, so he spent a lot of time working to earn the money he needs to buy the dogs he wants, and names them Old Dan and Little Ann after seeing a heart carved on a tree with the names of two lovers. Billy becomes famous as one of the best hunters in the Ozarks alongside his dogs, catching more coonskids than anyone else, but as the film unfolds, he would also face tragedy. I remember loving this film when I first watched it in school, then recently I watched the film as a growing man. It still holds up pretty well. The heart of the book is still there, despite some differences like the pacing of the film. It's a little bit quicker, but it's thankfully still enough to fill us in on the story. It doesn't always get into specifics though. The book tells us the hounds that Billy gets start off at $25 a piece, and he's worked for 2 years in order to get the money he needs. But then the price dropped by $5, which he learns upon the notice that he'll need to pick up his dogs in Tahlequah, and receives $10 in change. The movie is not specific about the prices. Not that it has to be, but it would be a good detail that doesn't take any extra effort to insert. What's also nice is that the author of the novel, Wilson Rawls, narrates the film as adult Billy, recollecting his past living in the Ozarks. Usually I find narration in a movie to be kinda lazy, since the movie should really speak for itself, but I love it when the author of the original source material does narration for the film version, kinda like Gene Shepard in A Christmas Story, or maybe a cameo appearance like S.E. Hinton in The Outsiders, or maybe helping out in writing the screenplay like William Goldman with The Princess Bride. In the case of Wilson Rawls, other than giving the studio the rights to make a film of his story, he only does the narration. If I have to give some nitpicks, sometimes the lighting is not right. There's a scene where it's supposed to take place at night, but it was clearly shot during the day. They definitely tried to make it dim enough so that we don't notice, but they couldn't quite get there. I mean, later scenes, and even earlier scenes, could get the nighttime setting right without much trouble. But for some reason, this one scene just couldn't do it. My guess for why it was shot during the day was because of concerns of shooting with children out in the woods. I'm sure they tried to work around it, but oh well. It was the mid-70s, before the age of computer technology, so I'll give them some credit. Even after all these years, the film is still almost as timeless as the book. Almost. For some reason, 20 years later, a direct-to-video sequel to the film was made, even though the book never got a sequel, and in 2003, Disney made their own version of the book. It seems as though Disney wants to forget about this film, as to this day, it's still not available on Disney+. Whatever, the 74 version is what we're really looking to when showing elementary school students a film adaptation of the classic story. Not because it's older, but because it's more authentic. Even as an adult, when we're done with school, it's still a great film to watch. Just as Billy reflects on his past of living in the Ozarks, we should do the same and reflect on our past of hearing of a great story of a boy and his two dogs. In a sea of films adapted from books, this one stands out mainly for its great nostalgic value, and is still a great film today.